This was our 10th platform, and normally we invite guest artists in to curate. And I think it was at a staff meeting where the staff was like, what if we make ACO the subject of a platform? Here was someone who is so multidimensional and actually works across artistic disciplines. And how could we use the platforms as a way to create different points of entry into her complicated process? We started with what is the history of the East Village, what is the multiple layers of historical relevance, with this being such an important immigrant community since the turn of the last century. Such an important home for radical artists and activists. And then in the, as you say, I mean, some of that stayed and some of that went, because at the end of the day, you have an artist who needs to be taken care of actually in the site. So we needed people who would be willing to take care of ACO and as she performed these sort of difficult tasks, solos every day.
So we did a lot of walking around the East Village. I think there were some immediate spots that we were struck by, two of which are our own homes. Right now we're in the Ukrainian National Home where one of the Danspace Project offices are. We were interested in the history of the Ukrainian community in this neighborhood. Veselka's right downstairs. And then St. Mark's Church, which is where we did do the final midnight performance. And then other sites that we selected were people who said yes, frankly. A lot of local business owners, people who had no reason to say yes necessarily, except that they were curious about a sort of strange offer. Dashwood Books, for example, on Bond Street was a great site. It's a tiny bookstore, independently owned, that focuses on photography books. And it just so happens that it's next door to what was formerly the Campo Cultural Center, which is where Aiko and Coma first performed their piece Grain in 1983. And then Anna was another place that said yes, the clothing boutique on 11th Street. Some of those spaces were so small that Aiko's performance really spilled out onto the street. So it wasn't just about the intimacy of those 10 people invited to the performance. There was the added layer of the passersby, this person walking their dog, the post office person, the FedEx man. And so I love the way it started from that place of intimate encounters and then just grew from there.
Suzanne in her basement has this beautiful loom, so she offered to have weaver textile artists be there, and it was such an amazing moment for me. We met people in front of the church. We walked through the night, through the partiers, down 2nd Avenue to 4th Street. No one knew where they were going, so we had maybe 12 people with us. And we took them to this undisclosed site at night. We walked in and the house was just quiet. And then everyone just quietly was led downstairs to the basement, and there was this woman just sitting at the loom, and all you could hear was the sound of the loom. We had this idea that she would perform over 24 hours.
That's right, every hour of the day. So one day 9 a.m., next day 10 a.m., and so forth for a 24-hour cycle.
Which we then put on the wall and said, that's crazy.
Yes.
We can't do that.
But we did like the idea of finding different moments in time to be in this particular neighborhood, thinking about its history of radicalism and how people inhabit it now.
And we landed on what, 9, noon, 3, 6, 9.
Yes.
Aiko won at midnight. So we had some back and forth about the benefits of midnight versus the benefits of morning performances. We did commit to a 24-hour vigil. It just turned out by coincidence that the 5th anniversary of Fukushima was during the platform on March 5th. Well, no, March
11th.
11th.
Yeah.
The 5th anniversary on March 11th.
Yeah.
So we hosted a 24-hour vigil. And you stayed during the wee hours.
I did. And that was...
I went and slept and came back.
Yeah, there were many highlights and strange moments to that night. It was truly intergenerational. I think you had this idea of every hour bringing in a poet or a musician to mark the hour.
Yeah.
And the 24 people who we ended up to do that was just an amazing cast. There was the Reverend Allison Moore from St. Mark's Church. There was Don Christian, a musician, and a student that he works with, a teenager. There was Aiko's son there at 2 a.m. making rice balls to keep people going.
There was Ishmael Houston Jones reading bedtime
Yes.
stories at 1 in the morning on the altar.
Pajamas.
In his pajamas. The platforms from the beginning were intended as, or predicated upon a series of relationships between artists. So I think we were really looking for creating dynamic connections, new connections, and beautiful friction, right? Like, so what do we have to offer? What new can we do? How can we shed new light on an artist whose work we think we know? Maybe we don't know that, or maybe that interesting tension between disciplines or different ways of coming at similar material but very different ways would illuminate something else.
Yeah.